Tom Pelissero from NFL.com and NFL Network is taking time out. No producer. He's in Green Bay by himself. And the poor guy calls into this. All right, Tom, how do you feel about Bennifer? Because Chris Brockman wants to free Ben Affleck. He's upset about the fact that he's on a yacht with J-Lo. How do you feel about that? Forget about Aaron Rodgers.
As somebody who just turned 40 and I'm in a perpetual state of late 1990s, early 2000s nostalgia, I'm all for us running back things that were cool in 2001.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel bad for Ben Affleck? He's on a yacht sailing outside of Saint-Tropez with a really hot, maybe one of the hottest women in the world? I know you're busy covering Aaron Rodgers right now at a Green Bay Packers shareholder meeting, but what's more important than Bennifer?
I think you just stated it perfectly there, Suzy. I'm currently in Green Bay, Wisconsin, covering a Packers shareholder meeting. A yacht sounds pretty good. Not that I'm not grateful. I'll be covering another training camp and doing all of our Inside Training Camp Live stuff on NFL Network and all that, but yacht always is pretty much better than anything else.
Yacht trumps Green Bay.
I'm not saying I feel bad for Ben Affleck. I'm saying, this is probably not the healthiest thing for him to be back in this situation.
Tom, he's really worried about Ben's health. I'm worried about Chris's health, but he's worried about Ben's health. All right, poor Tom. He's like, why did I agree to do this?
Ben went back after making one movie, making Geely with her, and made another one. So I'd say he's a glutton for punishment.
Much like the Packers.
Yeah, speaking of glutton for punishment.
Speaking of glutton for punishment, I should have done the camera turn like Bryant on that one. What is happening there? Because Mike Del Tufo is a shareholder of the Green Bay Packers. He's an owner, Tom, and he would love you to give him a fill-in as to what the heck is happening there.
Not as much as certain people were probably expecting to happen today. In fact, I just got out of Packers president and CEO Mark Murphy's press conference in which he mentioned, I thought there would be a lot more booing, whether it was against us or against Aaron Rodgers. It was pretty tame, honestly. There were about 4,000 Packers shareholders at the meeting. It was in the Lambeau Field Bowl. It was 90-plus degrees. Everybody's out there baking in the heat. But outside of a few guys, yelling little things of where's Aaron, and, Murphy was complimenting the general manager, Brian Gutekunst, and some guy yelled, I've never seen him throw a pass. Other than that, it was like nobody, people didn't pile on. It wasn't a mob scene in there. It was, like I said, a pretty tame atmosphere. We got a few answers for Mark Murphy. He wouldn't dive into, Aaron Rodgers coming back. He said that he does not know if he's going to report tomorrow, be here for practice on Wednesday. I also asked him, do you know or do you have a commitment he'll be here week one? Murphy said he wouldn't get into that either. He did say that, they've gotten phone calls, but they've been, very clear that they're not trading Aaron Rodgers. And I said, Mark, so just to be clear, there's no scenario in your head down the line where you would consider trading Rodgers. And he said, no, absolutely not. So, that's been very consistent, both publicly and privately, throughout this entire offseason and this entire ordeal. It's really been a matter of how does Aaron Rodgers come back to the Packers, or is he willing to execute his one biggest piece of leverage, which is not showing up at all? There's still different levers that Rodgers can pull. He could choose to show up, of course, on his current contract. He could continue to push for a revised contract that, as we've talked about for months now, would give him more power and control over how his career in Green Bay ends. He could, of course, announce that he's retiring and eventually unretire and go down that road. He could show up 5 days into training camp, eat 5 days of $50,000 fines, and preserve his the bonus money that they could go after. There's a lot of different scenarios. Certainly there is some level of optimism, and to hear Mark Murphy and Brian Gutekunst say it today, they talked about it in the shareholders meeting as if this is just what's going to happen. Looking forward to coming back, strong offensive nucleus led by Aaron Rodgers, and we're going to go try to finish the job after going to 2 straight NFC championship games. That's their external messaging, but as we know, Rodgers, for as little as he has said publicly, has done an awfully good job for months now of making clear how exactly he's feeling about the Packers organization.
He's Tom Pelissero, the reporter for NFL Network and NFL.com. I'm Suzy Shuster in for Rich Eisen. Tom, do you think anybody outside of David Dunn, his agent, and Aaron Rodgers, maybe Shailene Woodley, do you think anybody knows what's going to happen?
That's a great point, Suzy, and I've talked about this a little bit on TV. Is Aaron is known, even to people that he's close with, is just a very calculated individual. Everybody says, we know he has a plan, but he hasn't told us what the plan is. And so, from his coaches on down, everybody's kind of been wondering exactly how this is going to play out. And the Packers have, flown people out there to meet with him and talk about the future and everything else. But, it's not, I think that one of the mistakes we make in a situation like this is looking at the binary construct of either he shows up or he doesn't. Either he comes back to the Packers, everything is great, or he doesn't come back and it's it's a disaster. There's a lot of shades of gray you can go through here. The question really, I think primarily has been, is this sustainable? In other words, regardless of what happens in 2021, where is this relationship headed? Is there any way that the Packers can salvage it in terms of long term, or is this, as Rodgers alluded to with his post along with Devontae Adams on Instagram over the weekend, is this his last dance? Mm-hmm. Is this his 1 year bleep you tour? I'm going to go out and win and play great, and we're going to win the Super Bowl, and then I'm out of here. That's kind of always been the most logical way that this entire thing plays out, just because the Packers, if they want to, and they certainly have to this point, can say, listen, we hear what you're saying. We want to fix it. We want to fix this year our quarterback for the long term. And if you're not happy with the fixes, well, we still have you under contract for 3 years. So, no, we're not going to trade you. We expect you to be a part of this team. And what Rodgers wants is the security. It's not the financial security. The guy's made a ton of money. It is that security that he will not have to wake up one day and find out his career with the Packers is over, or find himself in a similar spot to Brett Favre when I was covering that back, whatever that was, 13 years ago now, where Favre felt pressured to make a decision about his future. And, shortly after the NFC Championship game, after the 2007 season, he came out and said, I'm retired. In less than a month, he was having second thoughts. Not that Rodgers would go that direction, but when Favre came back and said, you know what, guys, I do want to play, the Packers said, yeah, that's not going to happen. But Rodgers wants to have something that very few athletes and specifically NFL players have, which is the ability to call his own shot on how things come to an end with his longtime team.
And why wouldn't he want the exact same thing that Tom Brady has? I mean, let's face it, he's also a once-in-a-lifetime kind of player. He's smart. He's calculated. He's seeing Tom Brady go ahead and rebuild a team in his own image, and why wouldn't he want the same thing?
Well, and that's where the Patriots landed, too, which was they were doing something to Tom Brady's contract at the end, which was moving money up, adding incentives, allowing him to, make his money now, but also set up the contract in such a way that regardless, Tom Brady was going to hit the free agent market. Even if he had agreed with the Patriots, they could not redo his deal until after free agency opened. So, yeah, the difference there was Tom Brady for a long time was not making top-of-the-market type of money and essentially played out his deal. With Rodgers, if you're talking about, and I know that a couple of my colleagues tweeted about this earlier, if you're talking about going to, it's a one-year deal and the rest of it voids. I mean, I mentioned that scenario to another general manager who's been interested in that this morning, and he goes, why in the world would the Packers do that? And I said, I don't think this is not their idea. This could be a potential solution from Rodgers' side. It's very delicate. And again, that Rodgers had a plan through this entire offseason. He's told other players, I'm going to be out of there. But at some point, there are realities you have to deal with in terms of the contract, in terms of the Packers' leverage in this situation. Mark Murphy didn't really dive deep into it, but he did reference when he was asked about what happens if Aaron's not here. He said, well, there's a whole CBA process, and that entails, again, barring a retirement, it's $50,000 mandatory fines. Starting on day 6 of training camp, if Rodgers is still not here, they can begin going after signing bonus money, which all adds up to, if he skips out on all the training camp and into the season, it's like $30 million. You're talking about pretty significant financial penalties, even for a guy who's got plenty of money to throw around.
Yeah, it's a lot of money to leave behind. Tom Pelissero joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show. Question for you about vaccines, because you were really ahead of the curve on reporting this. Is this a partnership, you think, between the union and the league to get players vaccinated? Because I'm just curious about what you're hearing in terms of how this is going forward.
No question. And the NFL and NFLPA medical experts who, let's back up for a second. The league and the union have not agreed on much for decades now. It's been acrimonious collective bargaining negotiations and whatnot. But on COVID, there was a real partnership. I mean, Roger Goodell and DeMaurice Smith did their first joint press conference in like 10 years at the Super Bowl. So they've very much been close throughout the COVID issue, and their medical experts have very much worked in lockstep on the vaccination issue. Everything in terms of the protocols, in terms of, the differences between vaccinated and unvaccinated players, all of that was, if not bargained, it was certainly discussed, and they came to agreements on it, because you'll hear the same rhetoric from both sides of this, which is the vaccines are safe, they are effective, and the best way that we can have a full NFL season, and the part they don't say, we can all make all of our money from the first 17-game NFL season, is to get as many people vaccinated as possible. The only piece that is not negotiated is, the things when we're talking about the league disciplining teams, such as if you have a outbreak of unvaccinated players that cause the game to be canceled and cannot be rescheduled within the 18-game window, then the team with that outbreak forfeits the game. Nobody gets paid on either team, but that was the case last year, too. If a game wasn't played, no players would get paid. The only new thing is the forfeit, which is league discipline for the club, which is a slightly different thing. But yes, to answer your question shortly, they are very much working together on these protocols, even though the union has wanted, and the league on some level has also wanted, to not have this be mandated, to focus on education and incentives instead of forcing people to do it and the fights that would cause. They've got, 83+% of NFL players have already had at least one shot of the vaccine. There's 10 clubs that are above 90%. Every club is above 60%. These are, if you talk about the comparable demographic for men, 18 to 34, whatever it is, they're very much ahead of where the country is right now.
Tom, I just want to point out to you that this may be the only show that you do today where you can talk about Aaron Rodgers, vaccines, and Bennifer. So I want to thank you for your time, and I hope you feel special in that.
I got several hours of TV left. You never know, but yes, Suzy, I'd say that's the safe bet.
Tom Pelissero, thank you so much for joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.